Hello and welcome to November 2022 instalment of Editor's Pick. The Editor's Pick aims for manufacturers and engineering professionals like us to catch up with the latest industry news. My name is Tony Baldassarra. I work for Greene Tweed. I'm the Enterprise Value Stream Manager for Sealing System, which is a global operation for Greene Tweed. I'm also the site lead at the Nottingham site, representing UK and Europe. And today I'm welcome with my fellow peers from Made in the Group, Made in the Midlands Group. Firstly, Darren Lightwood, Managing Director for Always Engineering. He'll be chatting to us about the company's investment into with apprentices and how this is closing in on the skills gap for the company. Then we've got Roy Taylor, Managing Director from Always Engineering Group. Roy will be talking to us about the company's 75th anniversary. Wow. Especially how they've overcome challenges with the economy over the years and the skill gaps as well, big issues. And then we've got Richard Parks as well, last but not least, Sales and Business Director for CADspec, who'll be chatting with us about the importance of staff training for CADspec. So there we go. Just hand over to Darren to introduce himself, and then I can ask him a couple of questions. That's okay.
So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for inviting me today. I'm Managing Director of Always Engineering. We're a business that has been operating for 83 years in Birmingham. We are a traditional manufacturer of industrial products, and we predominantly use presses and CNC machinery to manufacture our product. In 2018, I identified that 30% of my staff were due to retire in the next 2 years. So we had people that had got 40 years service, 35 years service, 30 years service. And when we reviewed the open market via recruitment agencies, we didn't manage to find the correct skill set in order to move us forward. So based on that research, we basically identified what the key areas of the business would be over the next 3 to 5 years. And from that, we basically looked to recruit apprentices that we trained ourselves in those roles. So therefore, at the end of their apprenticeships, they were able to transition into full-time permanent positions, and they'd been trained the Always way, as we put it. So the skill sets that we looked for was we identified that we wanted people that were design engineers, press engineers, tool makers, machinists, and then from a business point of view, we also were really struggling to find good quality finance people. And so one of our purchasing manager, he said, my son's looking for a job and I'd really like him to work here. So basically we thought, right, we'll go down the apprentice route for a finance apprentice. And we registered him on the Kaplan scheme, which is a fantastic training plan. And basically all the other apprentices are going through the Incom engineering school route. All our apprentices have a mentor. I'm a mentor to one of the apprentices. All my senior managers have a mentor, act as mentors to different apprentices. And what the role of a mentor is to A, sounding board, B, close contact on a day-to-day basis. If there's any issues or if there's any concerns or if they're struggling in any way. Logbook review. So we really are keen on all our apprentices doing a good logbook. And we always say to them, you know, once you've been learned something, it's yours forever. Nobody can take that away from you. And that's what the importance of the logbook is. And also, we want them to have participation in different tasks across the business. So even though there's training on CAD, yeah, it doesn't mean they can't go into CNC and actually see and learn how they machine the products. So therefore, they start designing for manufacture rather than creating drawings for products that then we can't manufacture in CNC. So what we're trying to do is say to them, look, is give them the opportunity to see how products might be manufactured in the different areas, and then they can relate it when they do the CAD products further down the line. And we find that's really useful, and it also makes it a lot more interesting to them. We've managed to retain some of our apprentices from previous years, and we've got a guy in the CNC machine shop, and he's basically went through the apprenticeship with Incom, and he's now one of our best CNC setter operators. So that's been worthwhile. We've got other people in different areas of the business, but we have lost some as well. So unfortunately, we lost 2 last year. We brought them all the way through from school leavers through to HND. And unfortunately, a couple of aerospace companies come in and pick them off. The aerospace company that picked them off didn't have an apprenticeship scheme. So basically, that was their strategy, was look for young kids who had finished their apprenticeships, and then they'd recruit them, and the monies they were offering them were significant in comparison to what we could afford. However, it's the market, it is the market. And as long as they've left the business better than they started the business, I genuinely believe we've done our part. And, you know, it's no point getting bitter. It's no point getting frustrated, because you can't stop that. So our vision as a business is that we always want to put a quantity of people through our businesses as apprentices, and that is part of why we exist, because we feel it's vital that we keep generating new engineers into manufacturing.
Okay, Darren, you brought up some 2 or 3 good points, and there's a couple that I wouldn't mind asking you about. First one, obviously, you must have looked at your 5-year projection, what the business was going to look like in 5 years' time, with your skill gap, to bring your apprentices in to meet that gap. It's not the gap of today, it's a gap of 3, 4, 5 years' time. And I should imagine how you split your skill set with your apprentices, even with the finance that you just pointed out, as well as engineering, is the vision you guys had to meet the demand and the exposure your business had in the midterm future. Is that's your? I'm understanding that's how you viewed your apprentice gap.
That's correct.
All right. And also the other interesting point you brought up about the mentor. You know, I believe, you know, I've worked in industries where we've had father, son, grandson. That's gone on. That was 20, 30 years ago. But the mentor and the apprentice, and then the next generation apprentice coming through, probably 5, 10 years' time, will relive the father, son, grandson, father, daughter, granddaughter as well in this day and age mentality, that we retain those skills and bring people back into engineering and manufacturing. So, you know, what your points, you know, I'm aligned with how you brought things up and what you've said as well. And retention is really, really a big issue for us all. So, sorry, Darren. Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you, Darren. And next, obviously, we'll move on to a dear friend of mine, Roy Taylor. I've known him for many years. If only I could relive his life, we'd have all been much wiser. But thank you for joining us, Roy. And Roy is just celebrating 75 years of his business. And that is in itself is an achievement. And the one thing I'd like to ask Roy is his company's got a very large portfolio. He's got maybe 6 or 7 companies in his group, and all very successful. And are you centralized? Do you run it from Tiverton, or do you decentralize and all your sites work decentralized?
Yeah, well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me today. It's always a joy to talk to fellow colleagues from the engineering industry. So to answer your points on the employment of people, is that and the acquisition of companies, is that we've done this over the years, and let's make no bones about it. We do it because we want a larger exposure to companies through all sorts of ways. Made in the Midlands is one way, but acquisition is certainly a very important part for us. When I joined the company, I tried to spread our message around and got as much involvement with the media as I possibly can. And I come across during one of these meetings, such as this, based in Wolverhampton at the time, and the guy who I was talking to next to, he said to me, "You need a KTP." So I said, "Oh, what's a KTP?" So he explained to me the fundamentals of it fairly quickly. It sounded really good. And I took his advice and we started down this route. It is a competition, but if you're up for it, you can recruit really good people who have already graduated from university. We find that we don't need apprentices as such. What we need is people who are able to be operators at a level down, if you will, from the apprenticeship scheme. And we also need at the top end really good managers. And like Darren, we found that we were having an aging workforce. So we went down this KTP route, and I find it really useful. The guys that come from the university are totally committed. There's no way I could recruit people at such high level directly into the company. So we go through this alternative method, and it really has been a very great benefit to us. And the benefit is we retain people after they've completed their 1, 2, or 3 year projects with us. And if anyone wants to know more about that in detail, I'd be very happy to tell you about our experiences with both BCU and the University of Wolverhampton. But just coming back to the question you asked, we acquired companies through all sorts of ways, and sometimes they've approached me, sometimes other people, sometimes I've approached them. But we've had now 14 of these entities. And what we tend to do is bring them into the group, largely, as I said earlier, for the sales element. And we then drop off the limited for tax purposes and just carry on as a group of all these 14 entities. They're spread around the country, so we got a new order book into each area. So Wakefield was one area, Worcester was another area, and so on. So acquiring companies, bringing the management together, getting the best parts of the order book, and frankly, spreading our wings. So we've increased our turnover from a meager 1.5 million. This year it'll be 15 million, and from that, profits take place. So it's been a really good way of doing it. We are centralised, but that gives us opportunities as well to take people on, give them more management experiences, mentor them, as Darren was saying he does with his apprenticeships, and it really is a good route forward. I've got on my little crib sheet that Yasmin also wanted me to talk about steel and the price of steel and the way that we've been handling it.
I was about to ask you, Roy, about the market's volatile. How do you manage that over the years? It must be a roller coaster. How do you predict that price?
Well, it is. But again, it's getting to know your suppliers. So we've obviously got a couple of suppliers in the UK. We used to have a lot more, but we buy plate. And really, the only two places in this country that does that is Spartan in Gateshead and Liberty in Glasgow at DL. Both really competent plate rollers. We buy from them, and then when we need anything special, then we go elsewhere around the world. But the point is, once again, is getting to know your suppliers, getting to be on the same page as they are. They've got their objectives. How much of the things we do can we match with them so that we get a win-win situation? So we've got a great history, as we've heard, and we can look at that history, and from that history, we can predict what our usage is, give or take a few hundred tons either side of the norm. So we looked at what's happened in the past, we projected forward, we talk to our suppliers, we try to find out as much as we can about the market. Scrap to us, or this is the remnant of the plate after we've cut the different profiles out, is also a major item. And working with our trade association, which is NAS, we do a confidential report on a monthly basis as to what people are being paid in terms of the scrap price per tonne. In the bad days of 2016, 2017, the price of scrap had dropped down to £65 a tonne. Gradually, since businesses benefited from certain of the things that we've all put into the situation, the price of the scrap has gone up, and from £65 a tonne, it is now £313 a tonne. And that, of course, drops right to the bottom line. So it really, really helps with our profit. And the fourth item on my crib sheet is to talk about green issues. But we've taken major steps in this, and we've started by looking at rainwater harvesting. So we started with 4 IBCs. So we have a lot of oil. The oil comes in these IBCs. The supplier does not want them back because they have to spend a lot of time and effort to clean them. So we are left with them, and we're able to use those and take the water off the roof and bring it in initially to 4 of these IBCs. We found a source of ultraviolet light, and we were able to buy these at £35 each. And all the water then goes through the UV light, kills any bacteria, and we use that then in our process. And the process here we're looking at is lumps and grinders, so we need a lot of water to cool the machines down, the product, for maximum benefits for the accuracy. So we've done that. We do a lot of reclamation of the steel through a scraper system that we've designed, invented, patented, and we move all the steel parts around so as it's easily to pick up and put into the bin. So we're very green, and we've got a number of other issues that we're working with the universities on to improve that even more.
That's great. Thank you, Roy. That's a great story for sharing. And over to Richard at CADSpec. He's a very up and running modern operation. So, Richard? I'm just asking you, your who does your brand appeal to, and do you support Industry 4.0?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me. The diversity of organisations, manufacturers, architects, civil engineers, and construction, the amount of industries that we deal with suggests that we can't just be focused on just CAD software anymore. The depth and breadth of industry now, goes way beyond drawings. The associated data that sits behind all of those drawings is vast, And that ultimately drives then the life cycle of a particular product, whether that's, a manufactured product or indeed, a skyscraper building. And so with regards to who we provide our training services to, it's as broad as the industry itself. But we need to ensure that with regards to the training solutions that we provide, that it covers not just the ability to use a piece of software, but how that software is then used and facilitated within, the specific industry that, the organizations are in. So it covers a much deeper understanding of just as industry as a whole, not just a piece of software. The connectivity now of all of the data that we have, all of the software that we use, it is important as well. The ability to tap into the cloud and the computing power that the cloud holds for all of us is important. And as the amount of data that we collect and use is becoming more and more important, how we manage that data is more important. It's not, again, just about drawings. It's how the life cycle of that product is used, through its life cycle. And so in Industry 4.0, it's a very broad term. It certainly is, but you see it in everyday life. It's not just in engineering and industry. You see it in the car that you drive. You see it in an awful lot of walks of life nowadays. So it's something that we're very aware of, and something that we evangelize for. It's something that's not going away, and it's certainly something that we focus on.
Yeah. And just leading on from that, about 3D printing, do you support 3D printing, and do you promote that, and do you support?
Yeah, we do indeed. It's certainly a large part of our business. If we think back to what is, traditional design for manufacture, that's certainly not going anywhere. But with regards to the technology that's available to industry now, there's certainly a consideration for how manufacturing organisations in particular can tap into additive technology and use that as a means to driving their business forward, not just for prototypes, but for end production parts, for smaller runs. It's certainly something now that is embedded within the manufacturing organisation, and is certainly starting to find its way into the likes of the architectural world as well. So as the evolution of the manufacturing industry is moving at a breakneck speed, the technology that we need to be involved in, needs to be at the forefront of that. So additive technology, as much as it's been around for the last 30 years, it's certainly now something that's becoming a lot more prevalent. And is more than a buzzword now. It's part of industry. It'll continue to grow. And it's certainly something that we're at the forefront of helping industries understand how they can utilise that technology to make their businesses better.
Okay, and my final question, really, it's the same thing with everyone about skill training, and have you experiencing a shortage or a gap, especially in your specialised area?
Yeah, definitely. It was really refreshing to hear Darren talk about apprenticeships, to be fair. It's something that I think was almost a bit of a dying art, and bringing a new and younger generation of engineers into our industry, into the UK, is hugely important. With regards to skills shortages, finding the right people is certainly a challenge. Finding the right people with the right level of experience, but let's say the enthusiasm, to embrace the breakneck speeds that the industry is travelling at is certainly a challenge. Recruitment continues to be an ongoing saga, which I'm sure everyone has experienced as well. But that's just the start of the journey. Once you've got the people on board, the right people on board, it's the nurturing, it's the roadmap that you define for those people that forges their career. And as Darren said, if you can bring somebody into the industry, nurture them and make them a better person for the industry as a whole. Of course, you want to keep those people within your business, but if you can add to that pool of knowledge for the UK industry, if we as business leaders have got the capacity to do that, then it's certainly a good thing.
That's great. Thank you, Richard. Well, I think that will bring us to the end of the session. I'd like to thank a big thank you to Made in Groups for having us on Editor's Pick today. And a special thank you, obviously, for Darren, Roy and Richard for joining me. And just make sure that we check out all of the Editor's Picks where other editors will be taking you through their topics for the month. And again, thank you guys for joining me today. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Take care.